You're gonna love it, dude. Yeah, dude, check this out. So when citizens, they live inside states, and so that they enrich the state then fuels the federal government from its enrichments. The federal government has the private sectors, homeland securities, and all the rest of the bells and whistles that are supposed to overlook through the government, and then within the government, serve the people. So what if you had touch-sensitive gloves that you had to wear? And this was, in the future, perhaps just your epidermis gets turned into this. And whoever had made these gloves put the touch-sensitive properties, on the fingertips, cut out in certain areas that were aligned with cracks on your phone, so that the cracks were making half the decisions that your gloves were allowed to make, because only parts of your gloves were working in touch sensibility on a touch screen. And then one step further, on your phone, it had a display screen, the pull-up menu with the apps that were made to only have you be allowed to choose certain parts of them, because it knew the alignments of the cracks on the phone that weren't allowed to be touched, because your gloves were disaligned through the cracks, not being able to touch the screen if it's a crack. And so this is 3 areas where it would be rigged by cheaters, pumpkin eaters, because they would be winners, chicken dinners. Whereas to note, when the chickens are coming home to roost, if the goose is cooked, and if the fox is in the hen house, if you can sell success at the expense of cheaters, you're gonna have a winning format every single time. How to turn a profit from sheer volume. The majority of the people don't want to die. So what's gut-wrenching, stomach-turning, and spine-chilling? My phone's jacked, bro. The more that you clear out the storage, the less it's able to. Meaning it's just to dial on reload continuously in a circle, unable to press it. And so I'll just upload one clip into my computer, go back to my phone, take off the clip, upload one clip, take it off, clip at a time. An artificial thing could be, versus a thing that is non-artificial, would be the Big Bang as a singularity versus a black hole being not the singularity from the Big Bang. And then there's a third layer of artificial, is a Schwarzschild radius. Isn't a black hole yet, but has the potential to be one if it was having enough energy density around a vicinity. It would, in theory, collapse to a black hole, so it's named the Schwarzschild radius, being there's a potential singularity there even though there isn't. And so when you have these archetypes, it's a fantastic point of view to be infinity clear when there's a whole bunch of things that have been beating around the bushes, such as ADHD, who has it, and then like how to treat it. But then ADHD can just be anyone who gets ticked off really easily, such as like with gluten. Like how many people actually need gluten food versus just people who like to eat a whole bunch of food without it hurting their stomach. And with information so rich, if like you're handling what beauty is, but it's actually like so powerful it handles what medicine lacks, that would be like a rad concept. One thing I've noticed about being germophobic is that how much it doesn't matter how like strongly you're trying to not get the passage of harmful spreads two examples: when you have eye crust or like eyelash and you're wiping your eye and you see it on your hand, gross people would just like flick it on the ground or on their shirt. When they get up, it would go inside of like a cushion of a chair they're sitting on. A more like well put together person would get up and put it in the trash can. But even if you get up and throw it inside of a trash can, you have to believe that other people have thrown their sleepy seeds or eyelashes in there, and it would be equally as dirty, especially if it's really from a rank person who has very bad body odor. So then at that respect, how much of the up in the air are things such as like your neighbor's garbage when you bring out your garbage, and then if you're downwind from their garbage, you know, compost piles, the list goes on. The crossing of aerosols, and we're all trying to be protective, but how protective are we if we can't even handle those? The ultimate scope of existence, the Big Bang singularity. Everything after that has black holes about with singularities in it, and then a third layer, which could be represented as like through time, you know, an arrow between those first two extensions, is a Schwarzschild radius having anything that you see could be condensed down enough or collected about enough with like the Coriolis effect or Doppler shifting added in a holographic theorem with enough density to make a black hole. Theoretically, even though it isn't there, the the potential energy for it to be there is, and that's what a Schwarzschild radius would encumber. So that even though a singularity isn't anywhere, it could be, because that space could be collapsed dense enough to make a black hole with singularity that would have been in it. And understanding botany better is like, what if you had trees and all the stuff brushed that grew so great that you could keep cutting it off and making compost pile, and it would just be growing as quick as pulling up weeds everywhere, but it would be things that are a lot more fruitful, like Japanese blossom trees everywhere. But instead of that, it would just be like how mustard seeds, these things grow like really thick and the seeds are really small. Is there a parallel between the two? I propose in doing this is the computers in the 90s, they would have these crunching noises where you could hear, you know, these storage systems, SSD drives, doing the work. And then with the new era, the Dyson vacuum, you know, turbines of this caliber, and other things like just really well formulated shapes that they have, merging the mechanical and then the computational computer systemery together, feeling the force. I propose in doing this is the computers in the 90s, they would have these crunching noises where you could hear, you know, these storage systems, SSD drives, doing the work. And then with the new era, the Dyson vacuum, you know, turbines of this caliber, and other things like just really well formulated shapes that they have, merging the mechanical and then the computational computer systemery together, feeling the force. And information, it's humbling to know that there's a certain amount of atoms in the universe, and this has been calculated, and so the amount of data of that, given that energy is never lost, energy is conserved, you can actually draw parallels if you know holographic theory principled. And then this is how stuff is, you know, the mirage effect, when heat comes off and it looks everything fluid around it, even though it's air. The more that you can make machines have these fine-tuned things, like a whole bunch of blades that are working together, you actually see this Mirage having a really stylistic flow around it if it's doing an incredible amount of work. And so that is with flow. You can't fake style, and then power and speed, all of those together would make a Mirage look great. If you have equal parts, and this is in computers, the Pascal's triangle is revolutionary. Empty space, where you don't need to have all this empty space and poor constructs if each piece is emulating first in, first out.